Welcome to the Twist News. I'm Erika Grey. Donald Trump really ruffled feathers in the European Union when he stated that the European Union was formed to screw the United States.
The European it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
So I'm going to elaborate. That's Trump's simple sentence version of the formation of the European Union. But it's not exactly like that. But it kind of is like that. So I'm going to give you an explanation. The European Union formed after World War II as a way to prevent any more wars on its continent. You have to understand that the impact of 2 world wars is major in the psyche of the European. Major trauma, devastation. The idea was established in 1951 in the European coal and steel community, which laid the groundwork for the economic integration of European countries. And the idea was that if France and Germany could pool coal and steel production, that this would prevent war between those 2 nations, which had a history of being at war. That was the beginning. The ECSC Treaty was signed in 1951. But in 1957, the European Economic Community was created by the 6 founding members who signed the European Coal and Steel Community to form the European Economic Community, which was formalized in the Treaty of Rome of 1957. And the European Union has several founding fathers. And the founding fathers are Jean Monnet, Elise Dewsbury, Altiero Spinelli, who actually Spinelli was a Federalist, but his writings were adopted, Konrad Adenauer, and there were several others. Those are the key ones. Count Kalergi from a prior time with Pan-Europa. And the idea is that the federalization of this federal ideology was born back around the time of Kalergi, which was around the 1920s. So the idea, this federalist ideology of this world state, this world organization that would be federal, this world government, this world entity. And the League of Nations was a failed attempt at this ideology. So it kind of morphed, and it ended up taking fruit in the formation of the European Union, which was based on a lot of federalist thought. And thus the European movement was born. It started, again, the European Coal and Steel Community and the Treaty of Rome as a means to prevent war on the continent. And you see that within the European Union today, this aversion towards any right-wing or even conservative parties because of this fear of the resurgent nationalism. I mean, it's still within the DNA of a European, even the younger Europeans, to have this distaste because of the history. Okay, so that's the part that Trump left out. Now let's do the part that he's got a point on. In 1957, the idea of forming this economic community and starting there was a stepping stone to political union. And it wasn't long as the European community, which at that time it was the European community, was evolving. The leaders and the federalists, those key players in the European movement, had other ideas, and then additional members joined. So the original members are Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. In 1973, the first enlargement, which then included Denmark, Ireland, and the UK. And the second enlargement took place from 1981 to 1986, and that was Greece, Spain, and Portugal. This economic union is growing. And the third enlargement was in 1995, and it was Austria, Finland, and Sweden. And with this enlargement was talk of even going further. And this is where Trump is accurate, but I'm going to use different wording. The idea was that the economic union would be a stepping stone to political union. And it was also in this time frame, in the late 1980s actually, and in the early 1900s, when talk of reviving the Holy Roman Empire, the old Roman Empire, was at play, that they wanted to reclaim the limelight and the power of earlier history. And this is where the light bulb went off in the heads of these members of the European movement. And this is where Trump is accurate. And as early as the fall of the Berlin Wall and around the time of the Yugoslavia crisis, in 1991, Jacques Pose, Luxembourg's foreign minister, was running around Europe going, "This is the hour of Europe. It's no longer the hour of the Americans." And you started to see this very anti-American sentiment within the European Union. Negative talk about NATO, not wanting to rely on NATO, not wanting anything American, wanting to essentially build their own empire. Now, this was the Federalists within the European Union. And then, of course, you had a very significant milestone, which was the single market, the completion of the single market, the directives, the white paper of 1985. And the directives would be completed by 1992. After that, the Maastricht Treaty, and now started a real political dimension incorporated in a treaty. But the idea of the political has been there for decades. And trial and error and treaties getting rejected. Well, the Maastricht Treaty was a major milestone. And essentially, the Europe of today is the Europe that Jacques built, Jacques Delors. Jacques Delors was the Commission president at the time. You had Helmut Kohl and Francois Mitterrand and the French-German axis and all these things happening and the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reuniting of Germany. And afterwards, the European Union took in many more members. So what happened in the course of the 2000s was the Lisbon Treaty of 2009 to give the European Union a bona fide political dimension and its own army. And the army was through PESCO, and I'm not going to go into that, but it laid a foundation for the EU army. So Trump has a very good point, although he said it in very bold, simplistic terms, not in the sense of screwing the United States as much as surpassing the United States. And they started to do that in the economic sphere as far as with trade pacts. As their economy grew, as they took in many more nations, as they signed more trade pacts, they started to write rules that the United States would have to abide by. So Trump's statement was very simplistic, but essentially the European Union is really looking to surpass the United States, to be the leading power on the world stage. That's what it's looking to do. And they even have stated that they want to be a player on the world stage, a leading player. But they want to be the lead. That's what they want. Donald Trump has a point. They've already been taxing our tech companies astronomical amounts. And so that lends to Trump's theory in being correct. They have been looking to capitalize on the profitable U.S. companies through their tech taxes, tech fines, as well as other directives in which the United States will need to follow or pay fines. Our companies will pay fines going into the EU budget. So that's what Donald Trump is referring to. So this thing forming is forming to be a world empire, and it is an empire.
Sometimes I like to compare the European Union as a creation to the organization of empires. The empires. And because we have the dimension of empires.
Because we're in a multipolar order age of empires, and it's looking to be one of the leading ones. Till next time, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more.